Hello, my dear friends, and welcome back to our channel Mysterious Untold Books. Introduction. Financial freedom isn't just about having money. It's about having control over your life and your time. Most people spend their lives working for money, trapped in jobs they don't love, paying bills that never end, and hoping someday they'll have enough to retire. But what if there was another way? What if instead of working for money, you could build systems that generate money for you? The path to financial freedom isn't taught in traditional schools. It requires understanding which side of the financial spectrum you operate from and making deliberate choices to move toward greater autonomy. By understanding the fundamental differences between employees, self-employed professionals, business owners, and investors, you gain insight into why some people work less while earning more, pay less in taxes, and enjoy greater financial security. This journey isn't just about acquiring wealth. It's about transforming yourself into someone who thinks differently about money and opportunity. Chapter 1. Understand the 4 financial quadrants. The cash flow quadrant represents the 4 ways people generate income. Each quadrant is designated by a letter: E for employee, S for self-employed, B for business owner, and I for investor. These aren't just job descriptions but reflect fundamentally different mindsets, values, and approaches to money. In the E quadrant, people work for someone else. They value security and stability, seeking good jobs with benefits and regular paychecks. Their income depends on working for an employer, and they typically trade their time for money. When Robert Kiyosaki's highly educated father advised him to go to school, get good grades, and find a safe, secure job, he was recommending the E-quadrant path, the traditional route most people are taught to follow. The S-quadrant represents self-employed individuals and small business owners who essentially own a job rather than a business system. Doctors, lawyers, consultants, and shop owners often fall into this category. They value independence and control, preferring to do things their way. While they may earn more than employees, they're still trading time for money. If they stop working, their income stops due. Robert's rich dad explained that S-quadrant individuals are often perfectionists who believe no one can do the job as well as they can, which limits their growth potential. The B quadrant consists of business owners who build systems that generate money without their direct involvement. Unlike S quadrant professionals who own a job, B quadrant entrepreneurs own a system and hire competent people to operate it. They can leave their business for a year and return to find it more profitable than when they left. This was the path Robert's rich dad recommended, building businesses that could function without him. McDonald's founder Ray Kroc exemplifies this quadrant. He built a system so consistent that the experience is virtually identical worldwide, regardless of who operates individual restaurants. The I quadrant contains investors who make money with money. Their assets work for them, generating passive income through investments in businesses, real estate, stocks, or other vehicles. This quadrant offers the ultimate freedom because your money works even while you sleep. Robert's rich dad taught him the game of Monopoly as a metaphor for investing. 4 green houses lead to 1 red hotel, creating ever-increasing cash flow. The wealthy focus on acquiring assets that generate ongoing income rather than working harder for a paycheck. Understanding these quadrants isn't just academic, it's the first step toward financial freedom. Most people operate in the E and S quadrants, where income is limited by time and tax advantages are few. The path to financial independence typically requires moving to the right side, the B and I quadrants, where you can leverage other people's time and money while enjoying significant tax benefits. This shift isn't merely about changing jobs, but about changing how you think about money and value. Chapter 2. Shift your mindset from employee to business owner. Moving from the left side of the cash flow quadrant, E and S, to the right side, B and I, requires more than just technical knowledge. It demands a fundamental shift in mindset and core values. This transformation begins with understanding that it's not what you do that matters most, but who you become in the process. The primary difference between employees and business owners lies in their relationship with security and freedom. Employees value security above all else. When faced with financial uncertainty, their instinctive response is to seek safety, a stable job, guaranteed benefits, and predictable income. Business owners, by contrast, prioritize freedom and are willing to embrace uncertainty to achieve it. When Robert and his wife Kim were temporarily homeless while building their business, friends and family urged them to be realistic and get secure jobs. But they understood that true security doesn't come from a paycheck. It comes from developing the ability to create income regardless of economic conditions. This mindset shift involves overcoming deeply ingrained emotional patterns around money. Robert's rich dad explained that money is like a drug. People become addicted to receiving it in certain ways. When employees feel financial pressure, they instinctively look for jobs with higher salaries. Self-employed professionals work longer hours or raise their rates. But business owners think differently. They build systems that generate more money without requiring more of their personal time. This difference isn't intellectual but emotional. As Robert discovered, the voice in your head that says, "Play it safe," or "That's too risky," isn't rational thinking. It's fear talking. The journey from employee to business owner requires developing emotional intelligence around money. Robert shares how he struggled with self-doubt when leaving his secure job at Xerox to build his own business. The internal dialogue was deafening. You never make it. You are not smart enough. You can't afford to fail. Overcoming these thoughts wasn't about positive thinking, but about recognizing them as emotional reactions rather than rational assessments. By acknowledging these fears without letting them control his decisions, he gradually developed the emotional resilience necessary for entrepreneurship. Practical steps for making this mindset shift begin with education, not traditional academic learning but financial education. Start by understanding the difference between assets and liabilities. Assets put money in your pocket. Liabilities take money out. Most people spend their lives buying liabilities, like consumer debt, while thinking they're acquiring assets. Next, practice thinking in terms of cash flow rather than job titles or credentials. Instead of asking, "How much can I earn?" ask, "How can I generate income that doesn't require my time?" Finally, surround yourself with people who think like business owners. Your environment shapes your thinking more than you realize. The transformation from employee to business owner doesn't happen overnight. It's a gradual process of replacing old thought patterns with new ones. Each small success builds confidence for the next step. Remember that the technical aspects of building a business are learnable, but the mindset shift is what makes sustainable success possible. As Robert's rich dad often said, your mind is your greatest asset or your greatest liability. Chapter 3. Build assets that generate passive income. Creating wealth isn't about working harder for money. It's about building or acquiring assets that generate ongoing passive income. This fundamental principle separates the financially free from those trapped in the rat race, regardless of their income level. The wealthy focus on accumulating assets that work for them, while everyone else works for money that quickly disappears. Robert's rich dad taught him this crucial lesson, using the game of Monopoly as a teaching tool. The formula for wealth is simple, he would say. 4 green houses, 1 red hotel. In the game, each house generates monthly cash flow, and when you trade up to a hotel, that cash flow increases substantially. Robert and Kim applied this exact formula in real life. During a real estate downturn, they purchased small rental properties, the greenhouses, when prices were low. As the market improved, they leveraged these properties to acquire apartment buildings, the red hotels, that generated significant passive income. This wasn't about speculation or hoping for appreciation. It was about creating consistent cash flow. The beauty of this approach is that it works across different asset classes. Whether you are building a business system that operates without your daily involvement, investing in income-producing real estate, or acquiring dividend-paying stocks, the principle remains the same. Focus on assets that generate cash flow. When Robert was learning this concept, he purchased his first rental property in Maui using 100% financing. The property produced $25 monthly positive cash flow. Not much, but it represented an infinite return since he invested none of his own money. More importantly, it taught him the pattern of acquiring assets that pay for themselves while generating additional income. To implement this strategy effectively, start by understanding the difference between good debt and bad debt. Rich Dad explained that good debt is debt that someone else pays for you, while bad debt is debt you pay for with your own labor. When Robert purchased rental properties, the bank provided the loan, debt, but the tenant's rent payments covered the mortgage, expenses, and still provided positive cash flow. This stands in stark contrast to consumer debt for items that take money out of your pocket every month. The next step is developing financial intelligence to identify genuine assets. Many people think their personal residence is an asset, but if it costs money every month in mortgage payments, property taxes, and maintenance, it's actually a liability by Rich Dad's definition. True assets generate income whether you work or not. This could be rental properties, dividend-paying stocks, royalties from intellectual property, or businesses that don't require your presence to operate. Start small if necessary, but start building your asset column immediately. Remember that building passive income takes time and patience. Robert emphasizes that while the concept is simple, most people never achieve financial freedom because they lack the discipline to delay gratification. They want immediate rewards rather than investing for future cash flow. The financially intelligent approach is to live below your means temporarily while building assets that will eventually expand your means permanently. As Rich Dad said, poor people work for money. Rich people have money work for them. Chapter 4. Develop financial intelligence through education. Financial intelligence isn't simply understanding numbers. It's developing the ability to see what others miss and make better financial decisions as a result. Unlike traditional education that focuses on academic subjects, financial education teaches you to read financial statements, understand cash flow, recognize opportunities, and manage risk effectively. This knowledge forms the foundation for success in the B and I quadrants. Robert's journey toward financial intelligence began when his rich dad refused to pay him a salary and instead taught him to see business opportunities. In one pivotal lesson, Robert purchased a small condominium as an investment, excited to show Rich Dad the deal. After reviewing the paperwork for less than a minute, Rich Dad asked, "How much money are you losing each month?" When Robert admitted to a $100 monthly loss, Rich Dad explained that he was looking at the investment emotionally rather than financially. The property wasn't an asset but a liability that drained cash each month. This lesson taught Robert that money is seen with the mind, not the eyes. Understanding the financial agreement behind a property or business is more important than the physical asset itself. Financial intelligence includes understanding the difference between facts and opinions. When most people make investment decisions, they rely on opinions, often from friends, family, or financial advisors who themselves lack financial education. Rich Dad taught Robert to verify information through financial statements and cash flow analysis rather than accepting conventional wisdom like, "Your house is your biggest asset," or "Diversification is always good." This ability to distinguish financial facts from opinions becomes increasingly valuable during economic upheavals when emotions run high and vision becomes blurred. Developing this intelligence requires learning a new language, the language of money. Just as doctors use medical terminology to communicate precisely about health conditions, financially intelligent people understand terms like cash flow, return on investment, leverage, and passive income. This vocabulary isn't taught in traditional schools but is essential for navigating the B and I quadrants. Robert recommends playing the Cashflow board game he created specifically to teach financial literacy in an engaging way. The game simulates real-world financial decisions and helps players understand how money flows through financial statements. To build your financial intelligence, start by mastering basic accounting principles. Learn to read and understand income statements and balance sheets. Study the tax code to recognize advantages available to business owners and investors. Educate yourself about different investment vehicles and their risk-reward profiles. Most importantly, practice making small investment decisions and learn from both successes and failures. Financial intelligence grows through application, not just theory. Remember that financial education is a lifelong process, not a destination. Markets change, laws evolve, and new opportunities emerge constantly. The financially intelligent person commits to continuous learning and adaptation. As Robert's rich dad often said, your mind is your greatest asset. The more you feed it with financial knowledge, the more money it can make. This ongoing education becomes your competitive advantage in building wealth and achieving financial freedom. Chapter 5. Take control of your cash flow. Taking control of your cash flow is the foundation of financial independence. Most people struggle financially not because they don't earn enough money, but because they don't manage what they earn effectively. Without this fundamental skill, making more money often leads to bigger problems rather than greater wealth. Robert witnessed this pattern with his educated but financially struggling father. Despite having a good salary as a government official, his dad constantly faced money problems. With each pay raise came increased spending, higher taxes, and more debt. His banker and accountant would advise him to buy a bigger house with a tax deduction whenever he received a promotion. This created a vicious cycle. More income led to more debt, which required more income to service, leaving him perpetually working harder just to stay afloat. As Rich Dad explained, more money will not solve the problem if cash flow management is the problem. The key insight Robert gained from his rich dad was understanding the relationship between assets and liabilities across different financial statements. Rich Dad taught him that for every liability you have, you are somebody else's asset. When you take out a mortgage, that debt appears as a liability on your balance sheet but shows up as an asset on the bank's balance sheet. Similarly, your savings account is your asset but the bank's liability. This perspective reveals the financial fast track and rat race that define most people's financial lives. Those in the rat race work, pay taxes, and use what's left to acquire liabilities that generate expenses. Those on the fast track build assets that generate income to acquire more assets. To take control of your cash flow, start by creating a personal financial statement that shows your current assets, liabilities, income, and expenses. This provides clarity about your starting point. Next, pay yourself first by setting aside a percentage of every dollar you earn before paying bills. This money goes directly into your asset column for investments, not for spending. Rich Dad emphasized, the rich buy assets first, then pay their bills with what's left. The poor and middle class pay bills first, then hope to have something left to invest. Implement a systematic approach to reducing debt. Rather than making small extra payments on multiple debts, focus on eliminating one debt at a time. Pay the minimum on all debts except one, applying any extra money to that single debt until it's eliminated. Then take the entire amount you were paying on that debt and apply it to the next one. This creates a snowball effect that accelerates debt reduction. Once all consumer debt is eliminated, apply the same strategy to mortgage debt, and finally direct that cash flow toward investments. The ultimate goal is to create a financial statement where income from assets exceeds your expenses. This is the definition of financial freedom, when you no longer need to work because your assets generate enough passive income to support your lifestyle. As Robert explains, proper cash flow management by age 45 should result in an asset column longer than your liability column. This doesn't happen by accident but through consistent application of financial intelligence to your personal finances. Remember that taking control of your cash flow isn't about deprivation but about redirection. You are not spending less. You are redirecting money from expenses that make others rich to assets that make you rich. As Rich Dad said, it's not how much money you make that matters, but how much money you keep and how long that money works for you. Chapter 6. Create systems that work without you. The defining characteristic of successful B-quadrant entrepreneurs is their ability to build systems that generate wealth without requiring their personal presence. Unlike self-employed professionals who own a job, business owners create or acquire systems that can operate independently, allowing them to scale their income beyond the limits of their own time and effort. Robert learned this crucial distinction when his small manufacturing company producing nylon surfer wallets became successful in the late 1970s. Initially, the business grew rapidly, but soon faced intense competition from overseas manufacturers who could produce similar products at much lower costs. The company had to adapt quickly, shifting production to Asia to remain competitive. While this solved the immediate financial problem, Robert realized something important was missing. His passion for the business had diminished. Without his continued enthusiasm and leadership, the business began to decline despite being financially sound. This experience taught him that a true business system must be able to thrive even without the founder's emotional investment. The concept of systems thinking became clearer when Rich Dad compared different business models. He explained that a doctor's practice is typically an S-quadrant business because it depends entirely on the doctor's presence and expertise. If the doctor goes on vacation, the income stops. By contrast, McDonald's represents a B-quadrant business because it created a system so consistent and replicable that it functions identically whether the owner is present or not. The system, comprising training manuals, operational procedures, marketing strategies, and quality controls, is the real asset, not any individual person's skills. To create systems that work without you, start by documenting everything you do in your business. Identify processes that can be standardized, automated, or delegated. Focus on developing clear, simple procedures that others can follow consistently. Robert emphasizes that the goal isn't complexity but simplicity. The simpler your systems, the more easily they can be replicated and scaled. When he and Kim built their educational company, they created standardized teaching methods that could be implemented by others, allowing the business to expand to 11 offices worldwide without requiring their direct involvement. For those without business experience, franchises and network marketing organizations offer ready-made systems that can accelerate the journey to the B quadrant. These business models provide proven operational frameworks, training, and support structures that allow individuals to focus on implementation rather than system creation. Robert notes that many successful entrepreneurs started by learning through these established systems before developing their own. The key is understanding that you are not just buying a product or service to sell. You are acquiring a complete business system. Remember that creating systems that work without you requires a fundamental shift in thinking. Instead of asking, "How can I do this better?" ask, "How can I design this so someone else can do it better?" This means letting go of perfectionism and control, traits that serve well in the S quadrant but limit success in the B quadrant. As Rich Dad taught, true business leadership isn't about being the smartest person in the room but about bringing out the best in others through well-designed systems. Chapter 7. Find mentors who guide your journey. Finding the right mentors can dramatically accelerate your journey to financial freedom. A mentor is someone who has successfully traveled the path you wish to follow and can guide you around pitfalls while highlighting opportunities you might otherwise miss. Unlike advisors who simply offer opinions, True mentors share wisdom gained through personal experience. Robert's life was profoundly shaped by having to father figures with contrasting perspectives. His biological father, highly educated but financially struggling, represented the traditional path of academic achievement and job security. His rich dad, who built substantial wealth through business ownership and investing, offered an alternative viewpoint focused on financial independence. These dual influences allowed Robert to see options that most people never consider. When facing career decisions after leaving the Marine Corps, he could evaluate choices through both lenses, ultimately choosing to follow Rich Dad's guidance toward entrepreneurship and investing rather than pursuing a secure corporate position. The value of mentorship became especially apparent during challenging times. When Robert and Kim were temporarily homeless while building their business, Robert called his rich dad for advice. Instead of suggesting he get a job, Rich Dad reminded him of his purpose and passion. "Remember what you set out to do," he said, "and the trip will be easy. Start worrying more about yourself, and your fear begins to eat away at your soul." This perspective shift helped Robert reconnect with his mission of creating a new type of financial education, giving him the courage to continue despite difficulties. A good mentor doesn't just provide technical knowledge, but helps you maintain perspective when emotions threaten to derail your progress. Finding appropriate mentors requires discernment. Robert cautions against taking financial advice from people who haven't achieved the results you seek. Many financial experts earn their living from giving advice rather than from applying the principles they teach. When seeking mentorship, look for people who practice what they preach and have demonstrated success in the specific areas you want to develop. This might mean joining investment clubs, attending business seminars, or participating in mastermind groups where successful BNI quadrant operators share their experiences. Mentors also help you distinguish between facts and opinions in the financial world. When Robert purchased his first investment property, Rich Dad reviewed the deal and immediately identified that it would lose money monthly despite the real estate agent's assurances about future appreciation. This lesson taught Robert to verify information through financial analysis rather than relying on conventional wisdom or sales pitches. A good mentor helps you develop this critical thinking ability by challenging your assumptions and teaching you to see financial opportunities with clarity. Remember that mentorship isn't just about finding successful people. It's about finding people whose values align with yours. Robert notes that who you spend time with is your future. By deliberately surrounding yourself with individuals who think and operate from the quadrants you aspire to enter, you naturally absorb their mindset and approaches. This environmental influence often proves more powerful than formal instruction. As the saying goes, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Choose these influences wisely. Thank you for listening. Audiobook by Mysterious Untold Books.